I want to welcome everybody to Punish for Protecting News right now. And I'm going to ask everyone to please, before we even begin tonight, share this video far and wide. We will also have a premiere of this video on the YouTube channel Punished for Protecting. Remember, that's the number 4. That's the number 4. So Punished for Protecting. As we ask you to share this and invite your friends list so that nobody misses out on some of the questions that we have from the viewers and from advocates, whistleblowers, and everything out there that has been waiting for this day. So let's get this thing shared. I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to get this thing shared, and then we will bring our guests on, Robert Slaven and Nicholas Herring. Yeah, this is all about America the Free. I don't even remember what I named this thing tonight, did I? America the Free, Let Freedom Ring, and the award. So we should all be really happy right now with this amazing award. And we're gonna, whatever questions you guys have, you can put it in the comments. And I will be searching from the different screens so that these fellows get the questions and they'll be able to answer your questions, because I've been getting a ton of questions. So I brought them in so that they can answer all the questions that you have tonight. So just probably about 2 to 3 minutes of just sharing right now and inviting, sharing and inviting, okay? So get your lists up and pull your friends on here. Don't let anybody miss out on this. This is something that we have been waiting for a long time. America the Free. America's Award and Freedom. America's Award and Freedom. Go ahead and start some watch parties on your profile pages. If you have any other types of pages, if you have any groups, that's what I'm doing right now. I am sending it out to every page I have. And remember that this too is going to go on YouTube, and then it's going to go on 5 different what do you call it? 5 different TV stations as well. So we're going to get this out there and get the attention on it, and we're really happy for that. So let's just give it a couple more minutes, about 2 more minutes, get you guys out there and invite your friends list and share it onto your pages as much as you possibly can. Okay, and we appreciate that. And I'm just letting people know myself. So, and I'm going to go look for your questions in chat as well. So please, guys, be sure. I'm getting tons of messages right now that are coming through my messenger, and I prefer that you guys literally put it in comments so others can see it, so that Robert and Nick can actually see them if I should happen to miss it. Because if you send it in chat, you're just going to kind of freeze me up and slow me down. So get it into the comments section on the Punish for Protecting news page. Okay, that's the easiest page right now because we're streaming live off of that page. So please go ahead and do that. And don't forget, it's really important that you get your friends list, invited, so nobody misses out on this. This is a freedom that people, actually it's your freedom. It's what it's supposed to have been all along, until they intercepted and violated rights all over our country. So with the violation of those rights, as we know, families have suffered and are still continuing to suffer. Children are suffering, families and children all over our country. So we have a way now to put a stop to that once and for all for those that opt in. And that's what this question is. That's what this is about today, is they opt in. And let me just hold on. I'm being asked questions and I'm trying to. Okay, here we go, folks. We're going to be getting started with this. Sorry, I've got people like asking me questions while I'm trying to get you guys invited on here. Okay, here we go. Hi, everyone. I see you guys joining. Thank you. And thank you for inviting your friends list right now. Make sure that you invite your whole list. Make sure you invite your whole list. I'm going to start this out at the beginning of this. If you're going to see this for the first time, it'll be after it airs, even though it premieres on YouTube. It seems like it's premiering live. It's actually going to be this is going to be transferred over and uploaded to YouTube, and then it will premiere there. So just know that we wait until we have a large enough audience so that we're not repeating ourselves. That helps to consolidate the time. So that's what we're doing with that, so that you guys that are on YouTube watching this later know that it is not actually live. It's just premiering on YouTube. So right now we are literally just getting getting the people together so that we don't miss out on any of the questions that you guys ask. All right, so I'm just going to keep inviting. Hope you guys are inviting. And again, in the queue we have Nicholas Herring and Robert Slaven, and we're going to be looking at some of your top questions. So this is for the opt-in. One more thing, as we're waiting for people to join, I do want to remind everybody, we have not stopped Occupy Congress. Occupy Congress is going very strong. If you have not seen the child trafficking briefing, it is now before Donald Trump. That has been confirmed to me today. It is before Donald Trump. It has made it to over, I can't tell you exactly how many, 400 Congress members that I know of nationwide. Remember, you don't have to send it just to your own district Congress member. You can send it to any Congress member. If they've gotten it already, that's okay. Let them keep getting it. That just shows that America wants this system abolished, and we would like to make sure that those that have done this tyrannous act to our families and children throughout the centuries are held accountable for that action, which would mean arrest. It actually, according to Title 18, Section 242, it means a lot worse than just an arrest, but I think we're nice people, huh? So we are just calling up our congressman still. It's called it's called Occupy Congress. And basically just letting them know that we stand for the For the Children education panel that was held in the Congressional Hearing Room in Washington, D.C. on September 9th. You can use your own language. Just make sure you don't leave out important factors. Most important, that you are in favor of the child trafficking briefing and that you agree that child trafficking has come due to the family, so-called family court, foster care, CPS, the medical kidnap, the whole nine, the forced adoption, that it is an industry, and that's the tie. Everybody was like, wow, look at Epstein, and yes, that is huge, but that's literally a drop in the bucket in comparison to the child trafficking that's occurred throughout our nation for centuries through this system, through a very sophisticated system on American soil that's actually a foreign agent. And hopefully tonight you'll learn more about that and see why these rights are so important to you as American families, and why you need to protect the future generation of children, why we all fight so hard and sacrifice everything so that in hopes that our children and our children's children will have a better future in a real America that was once called land of the free. We want to make sure that it is free. And that's what this opt-in is for today. So I'm still inviting right now as we speak. I'm still inviting. I do have a large list. I'm hoping that you guys will help me with this by inviting your own. And we're going to get started here very shortly. So I'm going to check the first three standing out questions in a minute here, and then I'm going to bring in Robert and Nick to. I'll probably pose the questions to them as one or the other, or see who wants to jump in with a question. Just so momentarily, we're going to do that, and I thank everybody for inviting their friends list. Okay, I see the questions coming in. I just want to give it, I feel like I want to give it like 1 more minute, and then we're going to get started. But everyone should feel very, very empowered, very, very empowered. I feel like a lot of hard work has paid off. Okay, I feel like a lot of hard work has paid off. I mean, just think that the child trafficking briefing has made it before President Trump. this a wonderful award, America's Award of Freedom, has basically made it to almost, it right now is actually being presented to all of America to be free. The child trafficking briefing has made it to just about, probably 80%, if not more, of our congressmen and women in our country. Pretty powerful stuff is happening right now. David Jose today spoke of the fact that President Trump, that this has made it. All of David Jose's affidavits have been presented, have been put on notice to, like I said, about 80% of the Congress members. So you know what? Everybody that has been in the front lines, working your butts off, sacrificed so much. You should give yourselves a big hand right now, and we applaud you because this has not been easy, guys, as you guys know. But so many of you, and I see some of you on right now. Some of you have sang. I see some of you who I see Daniel on there. Some of you have done comedy. Some of you have used your gifts and your callings and your, to help to raise awareness. We every day we're out there, increasing the numbers, which is such an important thing. And what does that mean to increase numbers? Some people want to increase numbers because they want attention, right? They're an entertainer and that's all they care about. Some people do it because they really want to raise public awareness on something that is so critical. And to me, without families, you don't have a country. So to me, this is the most important topic in our country. So it's not just about, exposing this, and it's not just about raising awareness. It's about having a solution to the issues, not going around the same mountain year after year trying to fix a law or change something in a system that's a fraud to begin with. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to take the literal head off this giant so that the army that's behind the giant will flee, right? And so that's what we did here. And what I'm seeing manifest before our very eyes right now is within the past few weeks from September 9th before Congress, many of the giants' heads have been decapitated. And tonight we're going to be able to have questions that you have so that you can opt in, because you have a very short window right now, November 1st, to get in this opt-in. So this has been like, I think, over a year's worth of classes teaching on this subject, and then the award coming through, which is one of the most exciting things to me, knowing that the fellow people that we work so hard for every day trying to help your situations, and some situations are just so convoluted, can now finally get remedy and relief and freedom. And these creeps can no longer interfere in the lives of your families. So you can protect your families, because what's more important, seriously. Okay, let me go check now and see some questions. Guys, please put your questions in comments so we can go ahead. We have Robert Slaven and Nicholas Herring on here. And let's see what kind of questions. You guys can, unmute yourselves. I don't know if any of you already had a couple questions. I'm going to head over to the Punish for Protecting news page right now and just check out any important questions that I see.
Hey, can we just let Nick get started with the summary? That way, if that's where Nick feels comfortable with, let's just let Nick get the share going here and let him get started with the summary, and then let's let the questions roll in from there.
Okay. Well,
hey, and I want to make something very clear. I love you for what you've done. Okay. People don't understand that, but this is one of the award winners too. This man put hard work into what he's doing.
It's not just me. It's all the people that have done it with me.
It's a lot of people.
Credit for this. It's not just me. We all put in the effort, and we got an award as well.
Without a doubt.
I'm not putting it up publicly right now, but let's just say it's similar to the award that of the key TAM. It's very similar. Another thing, it looks like the cutoff date is going to be pushed back for opt-ins. I want everybody to know that, so there's not as much of a rush.
Okay.
And say that date again, Nick, because I don't think
I think we're looking at November 15th as the cutoff date instead of the 1st. It's not set in stone yet, but that's being considered just because we have a lot of people that are needing some more time to ask questions and understand this better.
Okay, Nick, I just want to make sure, just for clarity, I don't know if you need to move a little to the left or a little to the right. It was kind of going in and out, and your voice and what you have to say tonight is so important. It has to come clear.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'm not real close to my speaker here, so.
Right there.
There.
Uh,
That's better. That's better.
That
Is
better?
that good?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you're heard, and yeah, and I agree with Robert. Nick has put in a lot of the paperwork, the grueling, the mind and pen kind of stuff, the stuff that a lot of people are not gifted in, that Nick is very gifted in that. And I do commend Nick very much for, I know you've put in, probably, we can't even count the amount of hours of paperwork.
It's been a lot of hours.
Yeah, that's not
A
something.
lot of help. That's a lot of help.
So
So
we do thank you for that. And that's what's so amazing about, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Every piece has an important part, and without it, there is no full picture. And I really am very grateful. So go ahead with the first. I guess Robert wants you to go ahead and do the summary first, and I'll be looking for questions.
okay. Let's see here. Let me find what I'm looking for. I think what we're going to start with is really a summary of the whole process of arbitration from the start to the end of the process, and why this process was utilized. And I'm going to go ahead and read from this. Actually, Francesca, would you like me to put this up on the screen so people?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Okay. Unless you need me to, that's what I wasn't sure. But I think if you put it up on the screen, we can see you, right? It's just
you won't be able to see me. You'll be able to see what I'm. Oh yeah, you can see me over on the side there.
Okay, great.
So, and this is coming from the standpoint of Phil Hudock, and we and the person that was assisting him with all this.
I'm gonna mute everybody else while you talk because it's background noise. Please, one at a time, guys. Thank you.
So the United States federal government throughout our history stepped outside the bounds, ultra virus, cleared field doctrine of the Constitution, and therefore stepped outside their sovereignty and entered the realm of a private man where they have no more standing or status than you or I, which leads us into what 5 individuals did, which was Phil Hudock and the 4 other people that did this with him, to correct that through a lawful and longstanding arbitration process when there's a conflict between entities. And what the conflict here was between them and the United States of America government and their officers. In that sense, it is an acceptable. It is an acceptance of the contractual offer. In this case, it would be an acceptance of the Constitution as a contract upon proof of claim that the authorities, processes, procedures, interactions that the United States and the states are using are explicitly permitted by the contractual bounds, in this case, the Constitution. So again, here 4 men, 1 woman, one of them being Phil Hudock, decided to pose this to the federal government by way of presentment. This was taken against the 3 branches of government because there is conspiracy between 3 to violate the contractual terms wherein Congress will pass non-constitutional laws, processes, procedures, or interactions that the executive will enforce it and the judiciary will uphold it, which in fact would be a conspiracy among the 3 branches. And being 3 branches, you would always go after the head of those branches because the principal is always responsible for his agents. And so who are those heads? They're Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi, Grassley. You've all seen the award. If you've downloaded it from Hudock's site, you can see who was who this question was posed to. So what the 5 individuals did was say, okay, we'll accept your offer, that your government, okay, easy enough to understand, but now you need to prove that to us that these specific things you're doing in these specific instances, interactions, processes, and procedures, prove to us that those are explicitly permitted by the contract you're claiming we're under. It was pointed out in 573 points being proof of claims, and some of those had several points contained within them. All of this you can find on Phil Hudok's site at hudoc.info /. The link is up on Facebook for everything you need to know there. But this is a dispute resolution normally conducted between people. If you and I had a dispute and you said, I can do that because the contract says so, I would say, okay, show me where in the contract that it says you can do that, that and that. If you couldn't point it out in the contract where it was, you would be in a violation. Same concept here. Except some people think that they can do that to a government. And the argument was made that we'll accept you as government as long as you prove you can do these things. Well, those 5 individuals set forth many pages of facts that said, prove you can do it. If government can do that, what they're doing, they should have no problem producing under oath and under penalty of perjury and under full liability. Anything that is honorable would have no problem. Anyone that was would have no problem doing that who's honorable. In this case, we didn't receive anything. It was set up as a counteroffer. That if you can't provide explicit proof that what you are doing in these specific instances, that each and every one individually is contractually compliant, then this is how we're going to settle this matter. It's really an acceptance upon your proof of claim and a counteroffer. If you cannot prove your claim, then the counteroffer kicks in. The counteroffer is, if you can't do that, then we're going to go to a third party and let that third party settle this dispute, which is what they did. The third party is not in government, doesn't sit in a black robe sitting 6 feet off the ground. The third party would be an actual independent entity whom has no ties to either party in dispute. That's as unfair, well, that's as fair as you can get, and it's time tested. You can look at the congressional record, just on an off point here, and you can see where private law riddles, and in some areas is more than acts of Congress themselves. Let's see here. So those terms were set out explicitly. The federal government was compelled to answer each and every point. Just one default on one point means there was a breach. The breach was a harm. The 5 individuals set forth a specific remedy to make all Americans whole in this instance. This case is actually on behalf of all the people of America, the old qui tam pro domino rege quam pro se ipso in hoc parte sequitur and pro rex regum heredes, authority, which in Latin means roughly on behalf of the king and yourself and the king of kings and his heirs. And so for those of you that don't understand, the American people are to be the kings. They were supposed to be from the beginning, essentially sovereigns, not sovereign citizens, can't be that, but sovereigns with none to govern them but themselves. And of course, the creator, because the creator is the highest of authority. So they were given 10 days to answer the proof of claims. The respondents, and essentially the defaulting party, failed to respond. It was specifically set forth the terms of the private process being arbitration. Arbitration used to be called private dispute resolution and is recognized within their construct. There is an international treaty for arbitration being one of the most ancient practices of man and protected As we can see, it's been used throughout American history and beyond that. There was no choice, and they had to allow it with their construct. It's off point, but Justice Kavanaugh upheld that in a Supreme Court decision. Not that I care about Supreme Court decisions, they're opinions. Law is law. So at the end of that 10-day period, they were given an offer to settle, which said, okay, here's what you failed to provide. Here are the facts of the matter. Here's the harm you've caused. And here is the general remedy we are seeking on behalf of those who wish to access it. The remedy, based upon the breaches of the Constitution and the counteroffer, the general remedy to make the people whole would simply be to grant you immunity from their construct. For instance, what they call a crime of some sort. If you don't have a registration, that's a ticket. If you don't have a license, it's a ticket or jail. If you have a little bag of weed, you're going to jail. So the only remedy that could make you whole would be immunity from their fictional construct, because the whole construct is a breach of that original contract. And so here are some of the justifying quotes from the Bible for this. Matthew 18:15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more. This is arbitration. That in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglects to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. The maxims of law, custom and agreement overrule law. Arbitration has been a long custom. Private law has been a long custom, and it overrules law. Law is in the small letter law, like created man's law is what we're talking about here. And the second maxim is a custom of the truest antiquity is to be retained. These forms of settling disputes is of antiquity. It's throughout history, it's been ways to solve problems between individuals. That's what happened here. And so on a note, the breach of contract case initiated by the 5 individuals against the United States of America and top key members, players, officers, agents of the purported legislature, judicial and executive branches is through a lawful and legal avenue known as arbitration. The remedy is through a lawful and legal avenue by bills on the private side for private law and are sanctioned by the First Amendment and the law form set forth under Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution, having been in existence since the beginning of America and before it. It's an avenue for seeking redress and remedy for grievances. Private law has been purposefully well hidden from the American people under massive, unlawful, and political-driven statutes, and it remains still today available to the American people. They just have to do it. You have to look into it. You have to teach yourself this stuff. And right here at the bottom is and I posted this on Facebook for people, I believe, before, is an example of a year in Congress where the private law is at least 2 to 1, where there's more private law that passed than lawmaking enactments. And so it's fascinating. It's the proof is right here. Are there any questions on any of that so far, Francesca?
Yeah, so, okay, believe it or not, a very basic question. If you could answer, what is an opt-in? That's what Stacy is asking. What is an opt-in? We'll start out with something basic.
So what an opt-in here is that something that's available to everyone, and kind of like a class action lawsuit, but it's not really a class action lawsuit. It's a bill or a contract based off of a breach from previously, which I've just explained. The opt-in is if you agree with what's being stated in that bill and also understand what is contained within that bill, you can opt into it as a beneficiary, not a signatory, but as a beneficiary of the terms and conditions of that contract. And that's what this is.
Yes. And the next question is, and I see you, Anthony, the next question is, what do you do with the opt-in paper after you sign it? What do you do with it? I don't know if Robert or Nick wants to answer that.
When you receive the document, there were 2 pages. One of them is the actual opt-in. That is what's going to Congress. The other one is it has the information of where you need to send it. There's an email on there. There's also links directly to the site. You fill out the opt-in. I believe that there's a fillable form on the site. When you have it filled in, you go ahead and print it off, scan it in with your signature in both the signature line and the certified true and correct. Go ahead and email that to the email that has been provided. And also there's an address where you can send the hard copy to. And those will all be kept in their envelopes and will go to Congress as evidence of the amount of people. If Congress wants to open those up to check them, they sure can. They're going to get a big prize. Does that answer that?
Kind of, I'll have them write more if they don't feel like they have enough of that answer. We can, I'll elaborate. Now the other question is, how much does this cost the people? How much do they have to pay us?
Now, we are doing this absolutely free of our own free will, just like you are. If you want to opt in and you agree with this, it's your free will. It's not going to, the only thing that it's going to cost you is the cost of the paper, the cost of the ink, the stamp that goes into the envelope. That's it. And then your time calling your Congress representatives and your senators. That's
okay,
it.
I don't want to mix up the calls with the Occupy Congress, although this is really all occupying Congress, all of these awesome remedies. But just so that you guys are clear, because I talked about Occupy Congress, how you're calling all the Congress members with regards to seeing the child trafficking briefing, how we connected child trafficking with a panel of 5 experts very clearly to the fraudulent family court, CPS, foster care, forced adoption, medical kidnap, the whole arena of real estate fraud, the whole combination of family robbery to child trafficking. That's one thing. You're saying that you're in support of that and you want the system abolished and the players arrested. That's one thing. The second part of calling Congress, what Nick is talking about right now, Nick, can you elaborate on that, how it has to do with the opt-in and the award?
So, and I'm actually, I didn't get to that part. It's that second page of the opt-in is essentially you recognizing that it's your job to contact your representatives to ensure that your opt-in gets onto that private law. That means that your name goes into that private law. It's your job. I mean, there are no guarantees here whatsoever. We know the process is valid, and that's why we're doing it. But there's no guarantees that Congress is going to do what we want them to do, which they should be doing. It's going to be your strength in voices and numbers, calling your Congress members, your state representatives in Congress, the senators that you elected to go to Congress for the United States. It's your job to call them. It's your job to ensure that this goes to the floor of the House as a bill with your name on it as an opt-in, as a beneficiary. So call every day of the week that we go. Call the week before. Call the week after. Don't stop, because we want to make sure that we put the pressure on them in a good manner and a transparent manner, so that they get that there's a lot of people that want this to happen because it's absolutely valid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way to get this construct.
I'm just looking for more questions. I'm just trying to scroll through here. I did a little housekeeping and I
Yeah.
had my broom, my broom
Yeah,
and my.
that's cool. Hey, Anthony, I wanted to just tell you the email address and stuff. The HUDOC site is up and running. It's been updated, so go check out the HUDOC website.
It's hudoc.info, right?
It's HUDOC.info.
Yeah, it's hudoc.info. Timeline of the missing case. I believe isn't it at the bottom, Robert? Or did he create a new page for it? I can't remember off the top of my head here.
Well, I can't get into my email right now because of the way my devices are set up.
I have more questions. When you guys are ready, just let me know, and then either of you can answer. So Stephanie, just so you know, this will be premiering off of YouTube, so that I can blast it on TV stations as well. For Shannon, I see your question. She's saying, so I don't know if this is how she worded it. It might be a typo. So is a resolution or bill being introduced? I think she's saying, is the resolution or bill being introduced?
Yes, indeed, it will be introduced. We're looking at, yes, very shortly after we end the opt-in process, we'll be going to Congress. Yeah, it is going to.
And there's also the there's an executive order that's being actually written too that we're going to be trying to get done while we're in DC talking to Congress. So there's several things going on with it. So I'm glad. Hey, I want to get back. Billy has a good question for the common person here that, might be wondering what's going on with their rights or whatever. And we'll talk about some more of that stuff too, about, governmentally aided stuff, and let these people really know what the opt-in is really about, if you would like to, here in a little bit. But I think this question right here will lead to that. It says, do I forfeit any of my God-given rights and detailed in the Constitution if I opt in?
No. The Constitution can't even technically can't bestow rights. Your rights are yours and they're infinite. You create your rights. No, this can't take any of that away. I mean, the only thing that would, you just can't do harm. That's the main rule. You can't go out and kill somebody. You just can't do that. This doesn't take any of your rights as a man or woman away at all. In fact, it grants you more leeway with your rights. You shouldn't even say leeway. It completely opens up your ability to create your own rights, and while it's not harming anybody, good. It keeps the authorities or the opposing authorities. They're corporations. They're not government. It keeps them at an arm's length. They can't touch you. There's a permanent injunction.
It's for people. Well, I say like us lightly because I don't know everybody that's watching, but I see a lot of the people that I do know personally. And it's for people like us, so to speak, that are law-abiding, moral, have a moral compass, and care about our neighbor and don't rob, kill, destroy, attack, harass, that kind of stuff. So now let me ask you, here's a question that I have with regards to this. So what happens if someone opts in and they have a criminal history that's pretty strong?
Doesn't matter. Okay, so if we look at it this way, we have a de facto government. They've reduced themselves to a corporation. They're the same as any other person. They have no immunity. They've stripped themselves of that immunity because of the breach of contract. So that being said, the courts that have been running in corruption,
right,
not being actual government, but for-profit businesses,
right.
They're not giving out due process, period. There has been due process for years upon decades. I mean, technically, if the breach of contract goes beyond the Constitution and the conduct of the government, so technically everything, even beyond the Declaration of Independence, it's a breach of contract. And so there has been no due process. It doesn't matter. Every man and woman, even in prison now, unless they've actually had a full due process trial by jury of their peers, and say it's a class A felony murder, yeah, that's understandable, but everyone else, no.
So, and for example, I mean, and it's very concerning. I know that people are fighting for juries and so on, and I have been too, but we also know that there's pre-selected jury trials, which makes it very unfair too. So there's been so much lack of due process. So I guess my next question is, and I know this is what's coming up through the feed, my next question is for people that are law-abiding and moral and so on and so forth, moral compass, and care about not committing real crimes and so on, what happens after they've opted in and then they do something very bad that's not self?
Well, if they've actually harmed somebody, technically they're liable. But here's the problem is that the courts are not allowed to intervene. So that person somehow has to make whole the person that they've harmed. By
right, the Bible says, just like the Bible says.
Yeah, and that's what common law courts are supposed to be, a convening of your neighbors.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's where recompense comes into play, which is supposed to be restoring back to what you've stolen.
That's right. That's right. You want to make somebody whole.
That's wonderful. I love that. Okay, so I'm looking for more questions, guys, so please put them in there so I can have them. I'm trying to have these questions asked so that it leads to the deeper questions, if that makes any sense. That's why we started out with the more basic questions. So if anybody has any questions right now, I hit the invite list. Can somebody, no corporation citizen can be a jury member? Breach of contract? Hang on, I'm flipping from page to page, so bear with me because I know that there's questions on other pages. Nobody can violate our God-given rights, and it appears that the opt-in would force their private.
That's statements. That's statements. Hey Nick, let's talk about what the benefits are to the opt-in as far as what we're looking like as far as jurisdictional matters and stuff like that. Let's get these people some fire so they can have some questions for us.
Okay, well, why don't we go into actually looking at what the opt-in process is as far as the benefit that you're going to get here, and I'll bring up a page for this. Hopefully it'll explain it a little bit easier. What you're going to get out of this.
I might be cooking a little bit here in a minute, so just bear with me, but I'll be with you. With you.
As long as you cook for everybody, Robert. You can't just cook for your house. Everybody wants it.
Here's what you're opting into on a very basic level. What we're looking for in the bill for settlement of this award that Phil Hudock and his people have been so wonderful to bring forth. There is an opt-in process for the beneficiaries designed to be simple and rapid, which we've done. It's out there, but we're also wanting the officials in breach to put together a continuing process after even this is done, where people can just keep opting into this once they find out and essentially, wake up to the fact that there's been a breach of contract. There's an unconditional release and setting at liberty of the beneficiary. So if you are incarcerated as of right now, and you sign this opt-in and this comes about, you're going to get an unconditional release. The beneficiaries as defined in the bill is an American that opts in and includes their immediate family. That means your minors. For married couples, both adults would need to opt in and should both include their children. It's important that you include your children in this with both parents. That way they have the double protection. Any case that's past or present is void because the courts aren't lawful courts. And immediate and unconditional indemnification of the beneficiary. That means making them whole, essentially. Setting them loose. That's already been explained, but it's really making them whole. Their life becomes theirs. An immediate and unconditional immunity of the beneficiary. That means that there can't be any interactions. Police officers, any judge, court, all the way up the line. The only interaction can really be federal marshals if you've caused a high crime, such as a Class A felony murder. They can try you only at the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and the punishment can be removal from the country.
So extradited.
Extradited, yes. Probably to a country of your choice. I don't know for sure, but that really comes to up to what they want to do at that point. But you know, if you're doing that kind of things, you shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what about, and I've answered this one repeatedly, but I want the audience to hear it. Like, what about people who have had fraudulent CPS steal their children and endanger them and so on and so forth?
Okay, so well, if you look at what I just set up here, there's an unconditional release and setting at liberty of the beneficiary. So if you put your child under your name and the private law goes through as it reads, your child must be set free the moment that you notify with a private law in hand. It can be a copy. When you notify that court of the private law, they have to release the child. And you can also, if they refuse to abide by the private law, you can go to your federal marshals. You can have them do it. You can have them serve it and retrieve your children.
That's right. I hope you guys heard that, because this is what I've been saying over and over to all who have asked me. So yeah.
I do have to, on a side note, I have to put this in there that when you're going through a divorce with your ex or a parentage, yeah, you can block a lot of what happens in the courts, but you've got to be able to handle your own affairs after this. The courts don't technically have jurisdiction, but if you can't arbitrate, if you can't mediate, you can't get anywhere with your ex, the court is unfortunately going to be probably one of the options you have to go back to. But this will alleviate all cases until now.
Yeah. And
hold on, you can't use this as a weapon either against your ex-partner. You just can't.
Yeah. So the way I normally answer it is that hopefully both parents are normal, normal as best as normal is described in under norm, and can co-parent effectively, you know, and obviously in cases where there is situations where there's issues, hopefully that could all be worked out properly, because it has never been worked out properly before. So the system's failing so many families. And Lanzarone, the gentleman that's speaking right now is named Nicholas Herring. Nicholas Herring. Okay.
I just like to say too, it's more, this is where, you know, a couple of us has talked in the background, and, you know, anything in state care, like Nicholas said, anything state, and I think this is very important for everybody to hear, anything state. Okay. That means if you're getting services from the state, you might want to think about this, because this document right here is you taking responsibility for your life under the Creator. Basically,
now,
what it says.
Everybody has to understand, though, that and the concern about this would also be, well, let's say I have a disability and I paid into Social Security, and,
Right.
and I that's a separate contract, and they have a fiduciary duty under that contract to provide that funding back with interest.
Yeah, if you read into the contract and read into the stuff, it's more of a it's already been paid for, because it's actually, then you got to get into the insurance part of it, because it's an insurance claim basically. So that's why Nick is telling you it's another contract. So, but the insurance claim's already been paid for, so you won't lose your pay, you won't lose your benefits that way. So it's already been paid
Anything,
for. So there's a clause in there for it. Good point, Nick.
anything that emanated from you is yours, period. Bottom line.
That's it.
I'm going to keep going here. So there will also, what we're asking for is an immediate issuance of necessary documentation of the indemnification and the immunity of the beneficiary. So that means you'll actually get documentation in the mail for all of this. A return of all property and assets. That means anything that was stolen in the process of all this by courts, police officers, that kind of thing. It all has to be returned. It will all be accounted for. It will all be returned in the best way that it can be.
I mean, it's wonderful freedom. It's what it should be. And it's, you know, if the country just stick with the moral fiber all along, we would be, I personally believe we wouldn't be in this disastrous mess of an anti-God country. And that's really what ends up happening, is when you turn it over to man, this is the results of what we get from pulling God out, as far as I'm concerned. This is a question that I'm gonna go ahead and ask, for the sake of people that are watching, and watch these pages with questions here. Sorry, I don't know who needs to mute or something, but so what happens if there's some kind of a dispute when you already have well, let me go back for a second. There will be something in your hands, let's say, for example, if you were to quote unquote be pulled over, say you were speeding on the highway,
Yeah.
or say there was some kind of a dispute in your home, and someone in the nearby neighborhood calls the police because they see something in your yard or whatever. I mean, what happens at that point?
They don't have jurisdiction. You have a private law in hand. They don't have jurisdiction unless someone's actually being, physically harmed to the point where they could lose their life. They can intervene, but the courts don't have jurisdiction. You have to be able to handle your affairs. You have to be able to get out of a situation when you don't want to be in it. One of the problems here that and a lot of people don't realize this, is on the basis of the contract that we are under, the Constitution, and the bylaws that are created within the states, is that under presumption, by taking the benefits of being able to call the police, I mean, it's a benefit that's there and should be there for a different reason than what they're using it for, which is privateering. But that's besides the fact. The private law keeps them from intervening in a way that harms you, I guess. Getting a traffic ticket, I mean, like, they'll know at that point anyways, because you're going to be going into a database that's kept for the very reason of do not detain, do not harass. So that's not going to matter. But I mean, technically you can use those benefits, but you're running a risk of the presumption that by taking those benefits, you're under their jurisdiction. That's what you have to watch out for. You have to be wise about what you're doing, who you're interacting with. Does that answer your question at all? I know I kind of
I see questions popping up on my page. I'm just trying to go from page to page, and I'm muting in between, so there's no back feed. So you guys have to keep muting and unmuting when you're going to talk, because I do hear back feed. But one of the things too, Nick, and just to let people who are watching, or maybe people who are just new to this, we see a lot in these quote unquote criminal courts, and even in like traffic court, for example, innocent people being pulled over. They have not done anything. And then they have to plea bargain when they're not guilty. And then we see people who actually are guilty, and they get to plea bargain. And then the victim of a true offense obviously doesn't get the protections they should get. So in saying that, and you know, we're kind of between a rock and a hard place in our country. This is why this type of a remedy is good for people, because it takes them out, because they're not making good decisions. As you know, they're just not. I mean, when you have a police officer shoot and kill a man in cold blood, claiming they have a gun when they actually have a cigarette, they're not, and then the police officer gets away with that. That's not a good judicial decision. When you see an innocent person shoot what they think is a perpetrator, and then they get 20 years in prison, you know that there's something wrong with this system.
And technically, like a police officer, that they're meant there to be there to keep the peace, not to
people have to mute.
doing in violence. And technically, they're under statutory code, and they have a duty under that statutory code that does not apply to us, or it's not supposed to. And so they have a duty to uphold that statutory code that applies to them, not us. But they're already in breach of that anyways, because they don't follow the laws anyways. They don't follow their own.
They don't follow the laws anyways. As far as I'm concerned, they're hurting people over and over and causing extensive injury. Now Anthony is asking, so for example, you know, maybe I'll try to elaborate on this one too, since it's kind of my area, but well, it is my area, but for example, like if say the other parent's not letting the parent see, the mother or father see their children no matter what, and there's no court. I laugh at that in a sense, and I'm not laughing at you, Anthony, but the courts don't care about that. They'll just keep you going for 20 years. So in this case, it's who has the opt-in that the court can't bother. Therefore, I would have to say you're going to use your discretion in that case. I mean, but what do you say, Nick?
Well, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, that is something you have to be concerned about. Is that other parent going to understand? Are they going to? I don't mean it in understanding of you. You have to. Are they going to understand that they need to be right here as equals? If that's a problem, I mean, you've got choices. You've got arbitration. There's mediation. There's those kinds of things out there that you can go out and utilize to settle issues like this. But sometimes the court's the only way. But at the same time, when you're going into that court, you've got to, essentially a proof that shows that the statutory code doesn't apply. That there's a whole other set of maxims of law and even quotes from the Bible, which set up our original laws in the first place. That's where it all stems from. You can utilize that in the court, and I can guarantee you that by utilizing those certain law correctly, you can come out of that court unscathed, because they technically don't even have jurisdiction. So they have to give equality within the court on that basis. But you have to be careful at the same time, because I wouldn't want to go in there and walk onto their boat under their laws. And so I would argue from the standpoint of, well, I'm a king. Who are you?
Well, yeah, right. Nicholas, I'd also like to, emphasize this though tonight too for people who's watching this video. This is a lot of your responsibility. If you got a parent that won't let another parent see their child, after so long, that's probably, you got to look at your criteria and what you signed up for, what registers as a crime. See, there could be a crime there, because there could be child abuse. I think that a parent that won't let another parent see their child is child abuse.
No, and you can still make claims too. It's not like
yes.
You just have to know where to do it and who to do it to.
So where would you make the claims? Where would you make the claims so that they're not entering back into, that they're not putting themselves back into jurisdiction when they don't have jurisdiction? And
right now there isn't a court like that. That's the problem.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
technically, I mean, if you look at that quote that I did earlier from the Bible, let me see if I can bring that back up here. It's this Matthew 18, Matthew 18:15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained but thy brother. So that's what it's saying is go to your brother first. So go to your ex. I know that's hard, but
it's really time that if people really want their freedom in my eyes and they want this and they want to, just be peaceful. Go fishing. Go chill out. So you're not bothered.
Let's talk about I mean, that's wonderful. I wish more people would go to the person they think offended them and just talk to them and fix it instead of all the things that we see that happen.
Francesca. There's more to that. If you go and they don't respond, bring your own peers, bring other people to do it with you. And in this case, like what we've done that, and what we did is we went to a third party, a completely unbiased third party.
That's right. It's supposed to be a non-bullying way also, everybody, just to be clear. It's supposed to be done in a proper
to do anything.
Right. It's supposed to be in a respectful manner. And nobody does that. It's amazing the amount of adults that act like that don't do the proper thing and just like take somebody's word for something, attack somebody, talk bad about them. And even in that vein, it's like, I think it's kind of like this is grow up time for people. In the sense where there's actually abusive situations, because we deal with that all the time as advocates, where there's abuse and then the courts give the children to the abusive party and then the innocent party or the protective party, they get to get their children back within 72 hours. What happens in a case like that? Are they going to have protection now at that point in time? Like I have people that are in hiding, protected, literally protected, because they've been beat the crap out of, physically beat the crap out of. What happens then? Because a lot of times children are taken from the party that's been beaten and given to the person who's done the beating. How does that happen?
So technically, on what you've placed yourself in this private law, you placed yourself outside their construct by private law, and yet the way to there's really only one way to enforce a private law, and that's your federal marshal. Now, if someone's harming you, you could go to your federal marshal because you're under that private law.
There you go. That's the answer that I was looking for. And
they'd have to look at well, how what's the criteria here? Because it's this person has a private law. Is this person under the statutory jurisdiction still of the state? That could be another part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It unfortunately sets that in that unequal setting, though, and we don't want that.
Right. So really this would start to make the people that have genuinely had to suffer certain things that are barbaric no longer have to be forced to suffer, because the judges have forced parents to suffer by telling them, you protect your child, you go to jail. You can't make good decisions. And then you got CPS on the other side, supposedly there to protect children, which does the extreme opposite. So this actually will make things start to work right again. And
technically, if everyone opted in, let's say everybody in America, North America here opted in, courts would go away. They wouldn't have any jurisdiction. They wouldn't have any financial gain from it. This collapses all of the records that they're holding.
Right. This is what we want.
It basically what this does is turn everything right back to zero.
Yeah. And then make it right by the people, for the people, and all that.
That's what it does.
So the courts will go away as they are. That's.
Yeah.
And then the sovereign people, because the people are the sovereign. They're not sovereign citizens, so we get that straight. They're technically, they were meant to be sovereign. Yeah. Then they can institute the correct courts themselves, the way it's supposed to.
So
Wait.
now let's talk about some of the award aspect of the award.
Yeah.
And let's not mix up the fake sovereign citizen nonsense that has been perpetrated by a bunch of nonsense. Basically, we are sovereign. Okay, we are the people. We are sovereign. This is just placing things back into its proper order and proper place. Hopefully, people will keep a moral compass, a godly compass, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's really what this is for. And you wouldn't harm your neighbor. You would do no harm. You would do no harm if you love them like you love you. So, or hopefully you do love you so that you can love your neighbor. Which means protecting people, which actually means protecting others from harm too. And of course, it means protecting children from harm. In that, what about the award? What about some of the injustices and harms and injuries that these judges have caused? And when I say judges, you guys know I mean administrators, but or these other people operative of the pseudo authority that they've run by. How, can this be now? What's the next step in that process once this is awarded to everybody or whoever opts in?
Well, are you talking about we're not talking about financial return here, are we?
I'm talking about just anything regarding injurious, anything regarding injurious. I'm talking about, like, I know that when I was reading through it, it talks about, I'm not in front of it right now, so I can't go word for word, but it's talking about, the recompense, basically, what happens with that? What happens with the injuries? What happens with, like, we're supposed to be able to sue, but you know that what happens when you sue a quote unquote judge, they all of a sudden they become this like extraterrestrial or something where they don't have any, there's nothing they've done wrong. They can kill you,
Right.
take your head, it doesn't matter. And
So the process is tort claims against the private capacity of that individual.
Right. Okay. This is what I want, because people I'm watching, they don't have any idea what to do. So.
And are we talking about the award or the bill here? Because the award is different from the bill. I mean, yes, the award, what the award does is it grants
Why doesn't?
It backs up the bill.
I'm sorry. If I don't mute, there's like terrible background noise. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead, Nick.
It bolsters the application of the bill is what the award does. What we can clearly see in the award, though, is that the two major things is a permanent injunction in that award. Everything's stopped. That means that nothing can go forward. Everything else behind it is void. The other thing is a full audit of all of this Sestaki trust.
There you go.
Trusts are over here. There's a full audit of that, and essentially a destruction of that or liquidation, because it technically it really isn't yours, other than what's in it that emanated from you, like Social Security, that emanated from your pay that went into it. So that's the major thing about the award. The two major things about the award. That, what more could you ask for? And have you ever seen that awarded before?
Right.
Something on that. That's huge.
Right. So we would open that up and see what's there per person that's opted in. Yeah. So you don't know till now. You'll have that option. Now you have the opportunity to do that. I'll open that up and see. Okay.
Well, this is and so will you, though, in this bill. It's in there. An accounting and return of any and all accounts of any nature, shape, cause, form, format, and kind held or managed by any entity and emanating from the beneficiary. There it is.
So, and that's what I was looking for. I'm just trying to lead people because we're dealing with the right audience here. Now, Anthony, I'm going to ask that question in a minute, but I want to stay where we are right now. But I promise you, I will go there. So on that note, now the injuries. Let's just say, for example, the injuries that these judges caused.
Right.
Criminally, they're not opted in unless they opt in. What happens to them by the people? Because they, by our quote unquote laws under their jurisdiction, Title 18, Section 242 would put them actually in a very bad place, but will be nice. What happens there?
here's the problem. I don't care about the codes anymore. I don't care about their any of that. What happens with this is you're placed outside that where they don't apply because they don't.
Right, they don't apply to us, but they don't apply to them if we wanted to hold them accountable for the injuries. They've caused murder. They've caused murder of children.
You have to understand where to take it and how to operate in that private side against them, especially after the fact. Tort claims.
I fully understand. I see what you're saying, Savannah, that we are out of that construct. I get that 100%. But I'm saying I'm a very justice person, to say the least. I want to know what happens to these people that have caused severe injury to the American public to the point of countless murders of babies and children. What happens to them? Or what happens to them? We are exempt. We're now the ones that are actually immune. What happens to them? What happens to them? Do they just continue this? Right now, obviously, we're wanting to abolish this, but do they continue this, or do they just get away with it till they die and stand before judgment? What happens?
That depends on whether or not they get caught within their system for the injustices that they do, because they're bound to that system. We aren't. Right,
exactly. But so regardless that we aren't, and we're
tip somebody off to what they've been doing, have them audited.
There you go. Okay, we also have injunctions coming too, so that's something else, but we'll get on that subject. Anthony wants to know, so all prior convictions and or orders of protections, will they be expunged?
Yes.
And another question says, somebody asked about the driver's license. What happens with the your driver's license? I can't find the question.
It's just a piece of plastic. I mean, you can keep it. You can do whatever you want with it. You are going to be issued necessary documentation with this anyway. So, if you want to operate in commerce, sure, keep your driver's license, keep your CDL. In a way, you're actually working in their construct while doing commerce. You have to.
At that time, but when you're traveling, you're on your own time and you're immune.
Traveling, you're on your own time. Yeah, absolutely.
They can't touch you. Now, here's a good question, and this is one that I actually have. Car insurance / and then you have a car accident. What's the story?
Well, it depends on you. I mean, if you can still get car insurance, it's a good idea. I'm not saying don't do it.
Okay.
You just have to know how to do it in just your name, and that you're not using their iteration of it.
Kabish.
But here's the other thing you can do is go create a $1,500 bond or a $15,000 bond, an indemnity bond. So if you hurt somebody, you can pay them with the bond.
Right. Yeah. Right. And again, on your conscience, that's not on a court, because there's no court for that. Right. Yeah. No. What about license plates? What happens with that?
You can get rid of them unless you are acting or driving in commerce, not traveling.
So basically.
So you could switch your plate. Like, let's say you're one day you're driving in your vehicle and you're just traveling. You keep your diplomatic plates on the car. I mean, technically, you don't need to even take them off. You could just leave them on even while you're in commerce. But you have to remember that you're still operating within their system if you're doing commerce. I don't think that's going to be a big issue as far as like small automobiles. That would be more of like if you're doing semi truck traveling or not driving for profit, then yeah, you have to have a license. You have to have a license plate.
Right.
But otherwise, your diplomatic plate on your private vehicle is you can't be disturbed.
That's right. How does this affect spousal support? Someone asked.
Spousal support. Well, if you're going in and you're expunging that record, it goes away. But here's the thing: is she going to come back, and is she going to be willing to work with you? I mean, she's losing a lot of money that doesn't exist.
Okay. Anybody else questions? Passport with affidavit. How does this affect? Hold on, I read that one already. Because it's commercial, correct? Okay, she's talking back to the car, I think. I believe.
Yeah,
this-
because, well, you have to understand how you're operating. I mean, this is about dealing with your own affairs. What capacity are you working in right there? I mean, we all know that we've created a different status, standing, capacity, and character. You have to understand which capacity you're operating in.
Right. Okay. Billy's asking, can I opt in today? And how soon will I get it?
Absolutely, you can opt in today. It's open until well, right now it's saying November 1st. I think we're going to extend that. You can opt in anytime between now and then. It's all on the HUDOC page. I also know that that HUDOC will be going live tomorrow as well to answer more questions. And I'll after this show is done, I'll get on Facebook and I'll go ahead and post the link to that. That'll be happening tomorrow, I believe at 2 o'clock Eastern time. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check the time. Yeah. But yeah, opt-in is open right now. The email is up. You just send it to the email and send it to the address listed, and you're golden. If we anything that hasn't been added into your opt-in that needs to be there, or if something's incomplete, we'll let you know.
Nick, when you said the address, are you talking about just an email or a physical address? Like, in other words, you can type on it.
There's a physical mailbox address that you need to send a copy of this opt-in to. We're going to physical and then an electronic, because we're going to serve both.
So that it's actually an ink signature on it. Is that right?
That's correct.
Does it matter what color ink they use?
That's all fictitious stuff to me, so I know it really doesn't.
I'm just asking. Yes, Billy, you should tell the whole world to do this. Everyone needs to do this. Does it matter how many numbers come in? Does that matter? The opt-in is for whoever comes in. They get it. If a million come in, they get it, right?
We are hoping to have great numbers do this. I mean, yeah, it's free will choice, though. You know, you don't have to. It's up to you. Do you want your freedom, though?
Right. We're coming into some shabby times if you don't. God has provided a way right now to protect us.
I mean, I can say for a fact that I don't like seeing what's coming to this country and what I see in the future.
Right.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's not something I want, and I don't want to be a part of it. I will have good distance as much as I can.
Exactly. It's called, you don't want to. I know I wasn't put here to graduate high school to be babysat when I left high school. I'd like to be not interfered. Okay, Corinne is saying, when we write up our demands, what format should they be in?
You're not going to be writing up any demands here. All you're doing is opting into the bill that's going to the floor right now. That's it.
Guys, it's not difficult on that link. It's literally, if you know your name and you know
Nicholas,
and you know, hold on one second. Hold on one second, Robert. Hold on. I'm answering a question. If you know your name and you know your children's names and you know their birth dates, it's that easy to fill it in, and then you sign it. That's all that is to it at this point. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
Okay, what she's talking about is like, because of jurisdictional matters, is like confrontation again. I think this is what she's talking about. Confrontation again with the ex. So if she does, if say they do have to go into that court, they can since they're outside of that option, because every what people need to understand here is everything's an arbitration. That's why this is so cool. Yeah. People don't even get that. Everything's an arbitration. Everything. So when a parent can't get along with another, and then you know the other parent's inside the jurisdiction of the court, and you know you're standing outside here under free will, you can write your own arbitration to this court. You can deal with the courts that way too. I'm not saying you can't really deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to remember that if you've done the opt-in and you have children under that, they have the same status,
As you, that's why their name is on it.
capacity, and
So,
character as you. So when you go into that court, they're not subject to statutory code
that's
themselves.
right. I wouldn't
So
go back in personally. I would not go back in.
I'm just saying, if that's the way, everything's arbitration. So
it-
I
you
mean,
got the power.
all
You
in
got the
commerce.
power to put out there what you want.
It's all
Yeah,
in
yeah.
commerce right now. That we have to understand that,
But
that we're
Yeah.
military
That-
occupation, foreign military occupation, and it's
that
all.
actually leads to a really
Fran,
important question.
Please,
And
what did you say, Nick? What was you saying?
I was saying that we're under foreign military occupation. We all have to understand that, and that the rules are different under that, and that's what we're getting out of.
Right. But that leads us to a very important point, and Audrey is a very lovely woman. I think she's fantastic. But you remember what she was saying in comments the other day, and maybe I'm wrong, but my understanding of this is that if she had some kind of an arbitration done and she went back into the system and just kept going back into the system, then I feel like there's some kind of a what would you call it? Like a misconduct or something. In other words,
Well,
what
you could go. You could utilize the clean hands doctrine there. Does this other person have clean hands? I'm going to challenge that they don't have clean hands because, well, they're withholding something that's a right. It's a
Mhm.
right to be with my child, and you know, unless you can definitively say or explicitly prove that, well, that my child's dead, then you don't have any jurisdiction.
Right, but but what I'm trying to say is, she said that she lost everything and she lost her award and all this other stuff. That doesn't make any sense to me. This is
Well,
irrevocable.
How did you
How-
lose the award? What do you mean by that? Is what I'm wondering.
Do you remember when I had put up all the information on arbitration and what it means? Because people were asking me those questions, and in comments, Audrey put how she had it, not what we have, of course, but how she had it, but then she lost it. I don't know if you remember reading some of the comments.
Arbitrations are binding. I don't understand how you would lose an arbitration award. Was it?
That's why I assumed, I could be wrong, but my thing was, well, why did you keep going back into the courts? Maybe you technically didn't lose anything. They're just writing up these orders that
Well, yeah.
are in violation of your award. They're in violation
Sounds like
of
it sounds like, again, there's a breach there because an arbitration award is binding on all parties.
Right.
As long as was it confirmed correctly? Is it an actual order at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't
Something
say
to
that.
examine. Because if it's an arbitration award, are binding. They have just as much strength as a court.
Precisely, if not more, if not more.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So
You're talking
technically, you
about
can backtrack and look at what happened there. Yes, going back into the court over and over again afterwards could be a problem because you're granting them jurisdiction again by presumption, by being there.
Yeah.
The body
Yeah.
cures the error.
Okay, so that's why I tell everybody, don't go back in. And if a person doesn't have an opt-in and they take you back in, that's on them. They can go there all by them lonesome. They can't touch you. And remember, they cannot touch you. And that's important to me. That's important to me when it comes to protecting families. Very important to me. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. Anybody have any more questions here? I'm trying to find them. Okay, I just wanted to touch on that myself because your name won't disappear. They will note your file to don't detain.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, actually, you will. When if and when the private law is passed with your name on it, you have to ensure your name is on it. Yes, you will go onto a list of do not detain, do not harass, do not engage.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon, for that. That was good. Another thing is, okay, we had asked this the other day. There was a little bit of confusion. So just to make that clear for everybody that's opting in, do they need to notarize it and explain that, please?
No, you don't need to notarize it. Remember what we're doing is we've removed ourselves from the system here with this private law, or we will be. We already have the proof that there's been a breach of contract and that we're essentially granted immunity at this point. We need to act like it. And why do you need somebody else to verify who you are?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's about standing in yourself. It's me. It's my first name, and my house name. It's not yours. You don't get to determine who and what I am. So no, you don't need to have it notarized. We're your witnesses as they come in. We can see your signature. We know if it's real. I mean, it's, you know, no, you don't need to have a notary on this, and we're not asking for a notary on it. The little bottom part where it says certified true and correct, if you look at the opt-in, that's where your initials go, and you're certifying that what you're saying is true and correct, and that would be under the assumption and presumption of penalty of perjury and that it's true and correct. Your word is your bond.
Thank you for that, Nick. Thank you for explaining that. So as you guys heard, you do not need to notarize, but you do need to, you could type right on it, you could print it, sign it in any ink you want. You can send it back to yourself and email it to the email that's on there. And then a physical copy has to be mailed to the mailing address that's on hudoc.info. Hudoc is HUDOK.info. Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions. Guys, if you have questions, please, now's the time to ask them. While you have Robert and Nick on here, you want to ask them now. I'm just going to be looking.
Well, I'm going to just continue here because we haven't quite finished out the reading of what's going to be given at the when the bill is passed.
Okay.
I believe I already did immediate issuance, necessary documentation of the indemnification and the
Right, we ain't even close.
There's a return of all property and assets, expunging destruction of all records, systems of records, excepting one item. This is your diplomatic status, is to be the only record sustained, and it will be sustained by the Secretary of State of the United States of America. There's also, for those of you who own your house or are paying taxes on it, there's going to be an issuance of a land patent, title in fee simple, absolute, and possession. It's the highest in this system you can get. It allows you to leave it to your heirs, and under a land patent, it is free and clear from government obstruction. However, it has to be issued from the Land Patent Office, not from the Bureau of Land Management, just so you're aware of that. There's also going to be an accounting and return of any and all accounts of any nature, shape, cause, form, format, and kind, held or managed by any entity and emanating from the beneficiary. I believe I already went over that one, but that's the essentially collapsing of the trusts. Does anybody else have questions?
Sorry, I mute when you talk, so I have to, forgive me. It's like, it sounds like I'm not there, but I am. So when you said a return of all your assets.
Yes.
It doesn't just necessarily mean your children. I mean, people have lost homes. They've lost entire bank accounts. They've lost future for college and whatever they've saved, their life savings. They've lost jobs and careers and so much more. Explain that. Can you kind of put that in a little bit of a picture for people?
Well, okay. Anything emanating from you, like Social Security is always a great example. You're paying into something year after year, day after day. That's emanating from you. That's an asset, and it's yours. And it's been taken. And as far as we know right now, it's being pillaged. It's being stolen through Social Security fraud. A return of those assets, it's yours. So that's a great example right there. Sorry, I have a rabbit scratching in the background, so I apologize for that. So what would happen is there would be a full audit on all those accounts. And I don't even know, I couldn't even tell you how many there are. I mean, any bank account that you created, any interest that was made off that bank account by selling it on the stock market, anything like that, that actually belongs to you, that emanated from you, needs to be collapsed and a full audit done on it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think your sound went out, Nick.
Did it? Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go. Yes, there you go.
Okay.
I
Okay.
heard up to the point where you said there needs to be a full audit on it, and then your sound went out.
Yeah, I actually stopped talking.
Okay. It looked like your mouth was moving, but okay. So so now this might be sound like a kind of a crazy question, but does it also mean like if somebody is now on disability or they have no job for years, are they still collecting money in the Social Security Trust Fund? And what happens with that? How does that work?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you can still collect from that because it's a separate contract.
Mhm.
I mean, you could potentially collapse it and yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm looking for questions because I know that this is a hot topic right here. I know you guys must have questions right now. So I'm trying to look at them if you guys want to ask. Okay, so Corinne is asking, she said that her house was sold out from underneath her as marital asset, literally ripped out from underneath her. What happens with that? And it was done in a sheriff's sale like a year before it was supposed to.
Boy. Well, it would have to be audited to see if there was harm done. Of course, the courts can't do that if that's the case. They don't have the jurisdiction, so they never had the jurisdiction. So technically, if that house was taken and sold without permission by either of the spouses, it's that's pirating. That's stealing. And it's essentially theft. I mean, what more can you say? So
Right.
yeah, it would have to be returned. Or a payment monetarily to make that person whole.
Well, this was actually sold by fraud. I don't know how that would operate, but you're saying probably an audit.
Fraud vitiates all. That means the sale should never have happened.
It should have never happened. It does, but I mean, I'm sure of that one. And it made her homeless. But okay, let me go to Anthony's question. This is a very important question. Anthony wants to know if his name would be wiped from all databases, and would that mean that his nursing license is no longer valid?
No, not at all. No, I mean you can uphold certain things for well, I mean it's if you have to have a license, and the medical field is one big area that you is necessary really to have a license. No, that wouldn't go away. You could delegate that as keeping it. I mean, what we're looking at is in the injustice, the criminal part is going to be taken away. The civil cases are going to be taken away. Your name will be removed from certain like intelligence sites, or you'll be taken off terrorist watch lists. I mean, it's if you like I said before, if you want a license, it doesn't matter. You can get a license, and you're still free to do that because that's free will choice. That's the whole point here. What we're trying to get at is that we all have free will choice given to us by our creator. It's a right.
That's right.
And if you feel if you necessarily need a nursing license or anything like that, yes, by all means, keep it.
Right.
That's your business. That's what you do. So you need to protect that as well. That's just part of doing business as yourself.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking for more questions. So hang on, I'm looking for more questions here. It's my somehow my laptop froze up, so let me just kick it back on. So I know there's more questions, but you got to give me a second to catch up with everybody. I think it's because I'm on so many devices right now. So bear with me, guys. But definitely, please put questions in there so you can get your questions answered. Most important thing is to please opt in and be prepared. Oh, here's a question. So how long will it take after somebody actually does the opt-in and mails it in? How do they get the award at that point, and then we're all waiting on the bill together?
We'd be waiting on the private law. It's not an award. It's actually a law. It's essentially a law for everybody who's either a signatory or beneficiary thereof. I mean, it really depends on how we can move Congress. It could be we could not see it until January, February of next year. As I mean, I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That, like, the bill and stuff and everything that's going to have to go through, the process of that is basically we got to have a sponsor from the Senate, okay, which it's looking real good, and then that sponsor from the Senate takes it over to the House and gets somebody of the House to sponsor it, and then we go in front of the Congress and get this to put in play. It's pretty much that simple.
It is it's exactly that simple.
Has this happened before? Has a similar bill?
Oh, yeah,
happened?
absolutely.
Yes.
This happened starting in 2015 and 2016. Yeah. Brad, the start case is right to the tune of what we're doing.
Right.
And not to mention, you can go back and look at the the congressional record, and I'll actually bring this up for you guys so you can see it.
There you go. Thank you.
I'll bring up the 25th Congress for you. That would have been in 1837. Here, hold on. Oops. Oh yeah, I need to be in there. Give me a second here. But I'll show you where here's 1837, 45th Congress. You start to see here, look at all this private law. Look at this. There's more private law that happened in this year than public law.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go along the line up the congressional record, you can actually see where private law kind of started to disappear, where there's more law enactment than there is private law. But you can see right here in 1837 to 1863 on, it's mostly private law. Majority of it. So what does that tell you? And this is also leading right up into the Civil War as well. So it can kind of tell you how people did not want to be involved with that.
Right. Right.
And that's why it's the Library of Congress. I mean, it's
so the reason I wanted to ask that question and touch on that is because I'm a cheerleader for everybody, and I want to be able to encourage them that you are fighting a winning battle right now. Isn't that nice that you're fighting a winning?
It's exhilarating, yes.
Yeah, it's like the house of cards has fallen, my friend. So just kind of, go for it and enjoy your freedom. We want you to enjoy your freedom, but you got to opt in. You got to opt in, and you got to follow the steps that Nick and Robert are saying. You have to help us by making those calls to Congress and following the very basic steps. Okay, let's see what we have.
Help everyone by helping yourselves, please. That's what it's for. It's free, and we're trying to make it as accessible as possible to everyone. This is a gift to the American people.
This is a gift. This is a miracle. It's a miracle. Kevin has, it's kind of a statement, but I want you to hear it because I think it's a sort of a statement in a question. I need the silver bullet injunctions expunged. Then notice a trend of getting passed up. A simple public search shows the filing, and even though it's dismissed, it's already noted. Other candidates can be chosen. So any spousal support is too much.
Oh, I think we just froze up. Is the phone still on? Okay. Okay. Francesca, I think you may have frozen up a little bit. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, why I froze, but I hit the mute button because the dogs were going berserk. But did you hear what I just kind of wanted to read it because it was like a question in there. To Kevin, I think what Kevin's saying is that he needs the silver bullet injunctions expunged. So basically that's what would happen though. It would be
Right,
like,
oh, yeah. And
expunged.
that's what we're looking at. All of that is expungible because the courts technically are not courts. They don't exist. They're fictions. And yet we keep giving them the presumption of being under their jurisdiction by going to them. It's like there's other
Right.
processes that you can use. You don't have to use the court. In fact,
It's like, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" And then just keep going back for more abuse because they do not do anything that's healthy for your family. Like they just don't. So
No.
you get healed and then you go back in there and they inject you with the poison, you know, makes no sense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So I can't even imagine what America is going to look like without them, how wonderful it will be.
Well, if that comes to pass, I mean, things are really stirred up. They're really ugly right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We got 8 new questions. 9. Came in late. What are we saying to Congress? They want to know. Do we call? Do we write? That's from Jill. Hi, Jill. Jill is awesome, by the way,
So
everybody.
Jill, when it comes time that we're thinking about taking this to Congress, and it's probably going to be, you know, at some point in late November, we'll actually send out to people some things that some talking points when they call their congressional representatives, their senators. We'll give you the window of times that you need to do that, the week before or leading up to it, the week after we do it, because we're going to be there a whole week. We have, you know, all of the House and all of the Senate to serve, so it's going to take some time. And during that whole time, you can be calling and essentially talking about the bill and that you're opting into it. You understand what it is, that you're doing it of your own free will choice, that you understand there's been a breach of contract and it's been reflected, and that's what this bill is to set you free from that breach. And we'll put stuff out there for you to follow if you need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to take dedication on your parts to make sure your names get on that bill. You're going to need to call your representatives, call your senators. You can't get anything done unless you actually call and actually talk to them or send email after email every day right before and during the time that we're there. It's absolutely important and dire for your sake to get on there.
And basically we're going to be going to DC. So just remember that we're going to be going physically to DC here. And here's something else. And I just want to remind everybody, listen, I keep saying operation because I keep thinking of Operation POTUS. Occupy Congress, keep making the phone calls regarding the child trafficking briefing. But like Nick said, we will post. And when we post, we need you to help us because we can't be everywhere and get everybody else to read the post. You see what I do. I put scripts. Short of me dialing the phone for you and speaking for you, everything is right there laid out. So we will do the same thing with this so that it just makes it really simple. Here's another question, Nick, and it's a constitutional question. So I just lost it because it went flying, but it's like basically, how does this affect our Second Amendment right? She's talking about guns.
You need a Second Amendment to exercise a right, is what I want to know. I mean, don't we have a creator bestowed right to protect ourselves by any means? I don't need a Second Amendment to tell me that, and to exercise that in a safe manner either. I don't need them to tell me that. So no, it doesn't affect your Second Amendment rights. In fact, you don't need that Second Amendment because you have that right in the first place.
Okay, anybody else have questions? It's good. Anybody else? I like the hold on, let me see. What happens when they ignore revocation cancellation? Not quite sure.
They're committing a crime.
So now they're committing a crime. They're not opted in. They don't have immunity. How do we get that resolved? That's the same question as I asked before. We've got
Okay.
it, they don't have it, they've done harm, they've committed crimes. How do we get that resolved now? We're separate. We're separate.
You'd have to figure out how to put them into a court of claim. Tort claims are for public officials are the best way.
Okay.
And you get them in their private capacity because they're acting as a man or woman, not as a judge. They're not a judge.
They're not a judge anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, like that kind of leads me back to, because we've done so many appeals. Oh my God, above. And that doesn't mean you're wrong because they say you're wrong. You're actually right because they say you're wrong because they're so corrupt. But this is where we can actually start applying the real stuff to it, where now they don't really have a choice in the matter. So your answers will come out the way they're supposed to have all along when they didn't before. Does that make sense?
Mainly the whole idea is to get yourself outside of that and never go back in, though. I mean,
Yeah, never go back in.
in a lot of way, I mean,
right.
with everything that happened in my cases, I'm forgiving, but I'm not forgetting. But I just want to move on and be free.
I just want to be free, and that's really what this is.
I think that's what's going to make me whole.
Yes, yes, and that's what, you know, I mean, and Nick, you probably have too. Like growing up in church, we've always heard, well, they've got a free will, you know. Meanwhile, their free will is trampling all over my will. So a free will, an actual free will, has been so misinterpreted even by the church. Like if your will is free, then you're free. Not
if you're following orders, you're not free.
Yeah, exactly. So their free will shouldn't harm your free will. So
no.
All right, any more questions? Because this is so amazing and so exciting.
I've only got a few more minutes here, Francesca. I've got another meeting I've got to get set up
that's
for
really
tonight. So.
I didn't want to go too long. I'm actually going to be premiering this off of YouTube, and then it's going to hit all 5 TV stations within the next week or so. So guys, be sure to go to whodoc.info. Whodoc is H like Harry, U like umbrella, D like dog, O like Oliver, K like king, .info, and then you can get you can opt in there and follow the steps, and all the steps are there, right, Nick? All the steps.
That's right. Everything is in place. It's also on Scanned Retina. Just look for under, I believe it's September. There's a page for Treaty of Peace 2020. You can also find it there.
Yeah, and we can thank all the people that put this together, and I'm just thankful to God for finding these people. That was a miracle right there. That was the door that parted the Red Sea, and it's very exciting times right now. I don't know if Robert, did you want to say anything else before we wrap this up? Anybody that missed this in the beginning, go back and watch it, because a lot of your questions, probably all of your questions, will be on this. And I'm going to premiere it off YouTube. If you missed it from the beginning, you can watch it again now. Did you have anything?
I'd just like to say thanks everybody for tuning in. There's been a lot of great people working on things that you don't know nothing about, not heard of, that's not on this Facebook platform. We've been blessed enough that they kind of want to, come together with us and allow us to share their message. So I thank Mr. Hudock for that. If anybody that, I get a personal chance to talk to Phil every once in a while, and he's a very righteous man. He's a very religious man, and he's just a very courageous man. So I think that everybody, go to his website, respect his website. If you have any questions, I think there's a question and answer thing right there that you can ask questions on there too. Tune in. We're getting ready to be sharing links in the next couple of days about Phil. He's going to be on some shows. We want to get those links out to everybody so they can actually hear from the horse's mouth of what this is really going to be happening and what the plan is. And, have a good night, everybody, and enjoy your weekend. That's really all I got to say.
Okay, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed this evening. Thank you so much, Nick, for answering all those questions. If you miss this, it's going to premiere in about a half an hour on YouTube. Punish the number 4 protecting. And remember, guys, we're going to need your help. Okay, we're going to need your help. So help us to, you're already you're this close to being free. So help us to help other people.
Help yourself. That's
Yeah.
another thing. I mean, it's help yourself.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It really is. Love you too. Love you all. Love you all. Thank you for the hearts and the love sent to us. And we appreciate that. And Nick, again, thank you so much, because I know you did like intensive paperwork. So thank you. My head would be spinning. Robert, thank you. I think Billy hopped off here, but thank you. And God bless everybody. And we are over and out. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Hey, I'll talk to you in a little bit, Nick.
All right, brother.
Not over.
All right. All right.
I just need to shut it down. Sorry. I forgot I was on this device and not that device. I believe it's over. I hope it's over. I don't know.
We'll see what questions will get generated up from that. I hope a lot of people ask questions, so.